Hi, everyone. Welcome to Art Traffic. Let's get going. Today I talked to LA-based artist Linda Vallejo. She's going to be showing her work all over town with Pacific Standard Time this fall. Linda was nice enough to invite us to her home in Topanga Canyon. Please enjoy the talk.
How long have you been interviewing?
This is like my 6th interview.
That's like the last few months?
Yeah, so we've been only been doing this for a month and a half.
So imagine doing this for 40 years.
Yeah.
After a while, it's like anything else. You're kind of like, Jesus, really? Do I have to keep doing this? Oh my God, I think I bought into it. I think I'm stuck. What the hell else am I going to do with my life?
Well, this is why it's so fresh and invigorating for me, because I've been doing art for 25 years.
Oh,
and
there you go. Yes,
so
it's a whole new way.
This is actually like just really like an extension of what I consider to be fun already, which is just talking to artists, which I love to do. I love to just
that's nice.
hang out with my friends, we talk about art.
I was thinking about this because the only things that really moved me are there's 3 things I thought of. One was conversations about process, the intellectual process of coming up with idea, and pursuing all of the ins and outs of how do you translate that into an object. How does it become an object?
Yeah.
Where do you go from idea to object? How do you go from excellent idea to excellent object? How do you come up with an excellent idea? I mean, just that in itself is enough to just sort of sit and wait.
Yeah.
You got to wait. And you have to be willing to wait. And I love it. That's that's my most favorite thing. And I really love conversations where I get to talk about that.
And it takes so much time to polish that object and that idea.
Right.
Both of them.
Oh, yeah.
And without the idea, the object can't come. For me, in many ways. Is that true for you?
I'm not willing to make object that doesn't have really important meaning to me personally.
So that's not part of your process. You can't work through it in the making of stuff.
I do.
You do that as well.
But after I have the idea.
Oh, okay.
I have the idea that I go, how am I going to make that? I wonder what that looks like. There's my question. I wonder what that looks like. I wonder what that would look like.
Yeah.
So see, I want to be an abstract minimalist. How does a Chicano become an abstract minimalist? How the hell do you do that?
Super interesting, because that was our conversation we just had with Juan Cabestron.
Yeah, really? What'd he say?
Yeah. He was basically like, obviously a Chicano first, and then he was indoctrinated into this system of making art through art school.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And then he was like, well, actually, what does it mean and because some of his work is performative and some of his work is minimalist object making, he was saying that what does it mean to insert this brown body into this environment? Right. And how does that change it? And how can I bring it to where I live and change it?
That's right.
Yeah.
How do you incorporate? Oh, I had a conversation. Well, let me finish my first 3 things and then I'll tell you this great conversation.
Okay.
The next was a talking about it, and the second was actually in the production of the new object itself, and the third was in service to my family and my kids. I enjoy being in service to my family. I get a lot of joy out of that. That's when I'm happy. Like when I'm helping my sons do something that they want to make happen in their lives.
Yeah.
Or when I'm doing something for my mom and my dad, like I deliver like a homemade meal to my mom and my dad, they really like it. Then I find joy in that. So the art world, getting back to that whole thing, there's for me it's just jale. It's just job. It's a job. People go, how do you do this? I go, well, I'm a professional. Yeah. It's my job to take care of my career. Yeah. Duh.
Yeah. So you approach it in a professional way, but it sounds like you also put hours in, like in a very, like, I go to work, this is my hours, I'm going to go and I'm going to work hard, and this is, I'm going to expect a result.
It's like an actor talks about their career. When you talk to an actor about their career, it's a totally different animal. It's a totally different animal because they have classes to study this and classes to study that, and they're doing voice lessons.
Hopefully
and they have
the
to do
good
this.
ones.
Yeah, the really good ones. People with like big careers.
Not the celebrities, the actors.
The real actors.
Yeah.
You know, they're in a play in Broadway. They're studying Shakespeare because something's coming up. They're taking a dance class. They're reading scripts. They're helping to produce an object, a movie. You know what I mean? They're always. It's constantly like this whole attitude towards what it means to be a professional and what it means to actually get, not only to have the great ideas and not only to be able to produce images around the great ideas, but also to be able to share those ideas and images with a really large community or very large audience. And I think that's what really makes a professional, because then in the middle of that you have all the little bits and pieces of packing it, loading it up, delivering it, right, getting it back, shooting it, you know, all the network, all the networking, all the administrative stuff that goes into having a career, which I know you understand completely. But that's just the highlight part of it. I mean, that's just work a bee. Like some artists asked me recently, they said, what's your day look like? I go, well, I get up at 7:00 and I work on my career till about 2. What do you mean you work on your career? Well, I'm on the computer.
Yeah.
I'm emailing people. I'm calling people. I'm sending out slideshows. I'm doing all kinds of research. My God,
yeah. Your work is research heavy.
Yeah, research.
Talk about that for a minute. About like, okay, let's take like for instance a piece, because this is a good segue for us. How about when you? How did you research the pieces, and how did you choose materials for when you were going to do, for instance, Make 'Em All Mexican?
It was real fun. I had a really good time with that. It's really, really fun. I was in the middle of doing some work called the Electrics at the time. And the Electrics were basically, I related them to hippie psychedelia, spiritual vision search, which is the brown element, the brown-red element, right? And a pixelization of image, which has been a part of what newspapers and magazines since the very first, publications out of New York. Because we've been looking at it forever. So I was looking at these little boxes.
Yeah.
And I thought I was going to be doing that for a long time. It's actually resurfaced with the new stuff. But I was in the middle of doing the electrics, and I had just finished like 24 electrics, and I was showing them. I was doing nature electrics. I was doing electric landscapes. I was doing electric portraits. I was doing all this electric stuff. I thought for sure that's where I was going to go. And I had been traveling a great deal to be teaching, and I saw a lot of repurposed work, what they call post-production. When I was teaching in Dallas, I was teaching in Houston, I was teaching in Miami, I was teaching in New York, I was teaching in Washington, D.C. I mean, I was in all the major towns. Yeah. And I would make it a real plan to go out and go to the museums and do the gallery walk, right? Do the gallery walk. Yeah. Just to see what was happening out there. I mean, you got to get out of Chicanolandia, man. You got to get out. Yeah. So I went out and I saw all this stuff, this repurposed stuff. I saw this fabulous show at the Bowery, at the new museum in the Bowery in New York. And it looked like some madman homeless woman had made all this stuff. The museum was full of it. It was like garbage made into art. It was like, really, guys? I was like, okay. And I asked myself the question, which is how idea begins for me. Yeah. If I was to create repurposed objects from a cultural point of view, because that's what I have to offer is my cultural point of view, right? That's what makes the mix interesting. Yeah. What would it look like? And it took me about 5 years later of collecting objects and making all kinds of three-dimensional things from stuff that I found on the internet and stuff that I found in yard sales and stuff that I found in antique malls. I did a whole other series of pieces. I did a series of pieces called Thugs and Hoes, based on all kinds of modern sexuality. I did all this stuff around what I called Earth's Altar, which was a continuation of the spiritual aspect of my spiritual investigations of research. And they were all three-dimensional repurposed objects all over the place. 5 years later, I'm walking in a mall, and I've still got this question in the back of my head. Why can't I make something brown? I mean, what's happening with this? Right? And I looked at Dick and Jane Primer in the antique mall. Yeah. And I made. And
that's how it happened. That's how it began. That was the first Make 'Em All Mexican.
That was it. I looked at it. I said,
Oh, we have the explicit. You can say whatever you want.
Oh, I can't. Oh, I don't know if I cuss
but
like that.
But then you're a mom,
right? No. You heard it. You heard it. I know you heard it.
Maybe we'll put it in the show notes.
Well, I just have explicatives come very easily to me, and I watch myself when I'm interviewed to do it.
Oh, okay.
But I looked at the pieces and I just said, I can make them brown.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I can make them brown. I can make them all brown.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden the whole antique mall became like this brown thing.
Yeah.
One day I went back to the mall again and I saw these 2 little salt shakers. I still have them. I'll have them buried with me probably. They're a little pilgrims from the Thanksgiving dinner type. With a little hat, a little apron, the whole thing. I said, let's just turn this thing around. Let's just turn it up on side its head. Who really gave a Thanksgiving dinner? Let's all say it out loud. Right? And so I made them brown too. Yeah. And then all of a sudden I made, the Greek gods brown. I painted them brown. Basically I bought pricey antiques and painted everybody brown and made them all different shades of brown. Some are light brown, some are medium brown, and some are chocolate. And so the conversation just gets really intense about the politics of color and class.
Yeah.
And you laugh at them, like, see Elvis Presley and he's brown and he's got a mustache and he looks kind of good.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're like, wow, I'd date that guy.
He probably should have gone for that look at some point. He did a lot of looks. He could have pulled it maybe.
I think if they would have let him act, I saw him in a couple movies recently, and if they would have let him act, he could have done a lot better work than he did. And as a brown guy, I think he could have gotten away as playing a Mexican. I think he could have gotten away with playing a Latino of some kind. I mean, he could dance.
But maybe not Marilyn, right?
I did Marilyn.
I know you did.
I did Marilyn. I did everybody.
I know you did.
I did Marie Antoinette and Louis Auguste, for Christ's sake. I did everybody. And so it's funny. First you look at it and you go, ha, 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 that's really funny. And then all of a sudden you're like, I had an experience with prejudice once, and suddenly the conversation just sort of takes off.
Yeah, and so how did that turn things when those pieces went from, I think a lot of work is seen by the art world, and the art world has a certain amount of left politics to it in general. And then when things start to transcend the art world and they start hitting the popular culture and they start hitting the newspapers and the news and stuff like that, did you ever have any experience with work hitting the mainstream?
Not as much as I'd like.
Understood so well.
Not as much as I'd like. I mean, it showed a lot. I mean, I think I had something like I had 20 shows a year for I don't know how many years. Yeah. It's still going. It's still going. The brown stuff.
Yeah.
I think that what I'm happy about is that I feel that the Make 'Em All Mexican idea was a really good idea, and I was happy to wait the 5 years for it to come. While I just sort of simmered with it because ideas cheap, like talk is cheap, but good idea is pretty tough. So I'm really glad that it's been shown a lot. There's been a lot of really good conversations about it, but I don't think that brown is as hot as black. Like the black issue is hotter in the media than the brown issue. There really aren't that many people talking about the brown issue. But the black issue, because
it seems like somebody wants to build a border wall right now, and that really made things heat up fast.
I don't think a lot of people. I don't think people in the know, people in the winner circle, really care that much about brown.
Oh wow!
I don't.
You
really
would know
think
better
so.
than me. I never hit the winner circle.
Well,
I never go there.
When you look at the media. Look at the media. I mean, it's about the border. Everybody gets the reason why people were angry about the border wasn't because the brown people would be kept out or kept in, whatever it is. It was it would cost so damn much. Who's going to pay for that was what came out in the media.
Yeah.
Not those poor brown people. What's happened to the brown people? Don't know that Obama. Deported more Latinos than any president in history.
Ever.
Nobody knows that because the brown issue really isn't that hot. This is my theory: is that the black issue has become really it hasn't hit the art world yet. It has hit the movie industry and the music industry really big, and the sports. Of course, sports. It's been at the top forever, right? We got baseball. Latinos have got baseball.
Yeah.
But those guys have got football and basketball. They got the whole thing. But it's because I believe that the slave story. Because it's a part of American history.
Yeah.
Because there are actually records of who sold you, your grandfather, who bought your grandfather, if your family was actually divided. There's all these records.
It's powerful.
And 12 Years a Slave and all these movies that have come out have made the black issue more popular. Not that I don't know if the trickle-down theory really works in terms of poor blacks. Blacks are still at the bottom economically. They're still at the bottom in terms of education and upward mobility in the same way as the browns. I don't really think that brown is that big of an issue yet. I'm hoping that the image that I'm creating is making people think about brown. Because I'd like the brown issue I'd like us to be able to talk about it a little bit more.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we kind of skipped the part of the interview at the very beginning when we kind of tell a little bit about how you came up, and you've been at this for a long time. And we also like to have a moment where you say, hi, my name is Linda Vallejo. And
yeah, sure.
And then...
whatever you want, man. I'll do whatever you like.
No. And then maybe like whatever you want to about maybe like where you're from or how you started or what anything. Boy. It's up to you.
Yeah, okay. So how long do you want me to spend on that?
Yeah. This is free form. It's as much as you. Seconds? It's as much as you want. No, I'm not going to limit you. Are you kidding me?
Oh, thank you. But So okay. Hello, my name is Linda Vallejo, and I'm really happy to be here today. It's great to talk about the work. It's great to talk about the ideas. It's great to be included in yet another opportunity to share the thoughts that I have and talk about the images I create.
Thank you so much for allowing us to do this interview and come to this beautiful spot right here, looking out over the canyon.
Yeah, the tranquility here is really quite amazing. It really allows a head space to breathe.
Yeah.
And that's what you need to be able to contemplate image.
Yeah. So where did you grow up and how did you get started in this crazy art world?
Oh, my God. I was born in Boyle Heights in a Chinese hospital, and that's since been razed. And I lived in East L.A. with my parents, my grandparents, and my great-grandparents until I was 3. I had 4 great-grandparents when I was 18.
Wow.
And I must have, I don't know how many hundreds of cousins in California.
So tight family? Did they all live close by?
Well, in those days, yeah. Now everybody's spread out because of jobs and things like that, so many families have. But I mean, I come from one of those quintessential Mexican-American families. Some of us are Chicanos, some of us are not. Because that's a whole aesthetic and political viewpoint and way of living, iconography especially. But when I was 3, my dad graduated from UCLA. He since has 2 masters in jurisprudence. Has spoken 6 languages in his lifetime. He's super accomplished.
Big academic.
Yeah, he's super accomplished. Retired as a full colonel in the Air Force.
Wow.
Yeah. Was in Vietnam, did a tour in Vietnam, but we moved to Germany when he was a lieutenant. He graduated from UCLA. We moved to Germany. So I lived in Germany from 3 to 5.
You feel like that's why the travel's not difficult for you because you've studied here in California. You actually studied abroad, back in the United States again as part of your education.
Absolutely.
Was that why it was easy for you to make those decisions?
Well, you either Air Force brats, Army brats, whatever you want to call them, either make it or don't. You either become incredibly inquisitive and love the variety and like being around all kinds of people in different places and new languages and different kinds of foods, or you can clam up and pretty much, not reach out. Because it's very difficult. It's not easy unless you're willing to be an introvert or an extrovert in this case. Because you have to really reach out to make friends. I mean, you're moving every 2 years.
Yeah.
So you make friends, and suddenly they're gone and you never see them again. And you have to find yourself and be able to reach out again. Yeah. And so my closest friends were my crayons. Right? I was drawing when I was very, very small. I started my first art experience that I actually have a memory of is when I was 4 years old. In first grade, I had a teacher that made us read literature and then read books and then do paintings on easels. And man, I was just like, this is it. I really like this. I still read a great deal. I like to read artist biographies because it really moves me.
Yeah.
And I went to, I lived in 7 states. I went to middle school in Montgomery, Alabama in the 60s, which I believe is the bedrock of this current work.
Yeah.
I went to high school in Madrid where I learned to speak Spanish. I'm happiest around Latinismo. I found that out recently at one of my shows.
Yeah.
I love speaking Spanish.
And
I love all the accents. I love the Latin blood.
Yeah.
And I love to travel. I love a suitcase. I love investigating and finding new things, and I think it's been important to me individually, personally, in terms of discovery, because art making is really about discovery. Finding the message within the message, within the message, within the song, within the story, within the life is really what painting is all about.
So is it a kernel of truth? Do you feel like that's in the middle, in the center of that? Is truth telling part of for your work?
I would say on my website it says searching for the image on the very front of my website. And the reason why I put that there is because that's what my life is really all about, is searching for the image. And the image is always hidden in some experience, in some story. You know, you go, damn, that would make a good painting. I wonder what that would look like. Gee, that's a great story. And I have several of them on the burner right now. I'm trying to figure a lot of stuff out. Mm-hmm. And so it's kind of like a poet looking for the perfect word. You know, it's a storyteller looking for the perfect ending.
Yeah, so how do you know when the work is finished, when you're working in series the way that you do?
Oh, when I'm done.
It's an emotional feeling.
I'm finished.
Or
it's like
you
eating.
Feel like you've exhausted
That's right.
Everything that's there.
I can't do anymore. Yeah, this is the best I can do. Well, that's as good as I can do. I usually say that to myself. It's like eating and being full. How do you know when you're full?
Yeah.
It's really nothing you can explain. It's just you just feel full. I'm satiated. I'm done. I'm just done.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I did 200 make 'em all Mexican statues.
Yeah. You were not going for any particular number. It was just,
I didn't. I had to package them and put them in my storage unit. I said, well, I don't have any more room. I guess I need to start working on paper.
You're literally full.
I was literally full. So I grew up in a lot of places, and I learned how to investigate. I learned how to enjoy searching for things. And I was painting when I was really young, and I did one of those. I wrote music when I was 12 years old. I did all the artwork for my high school annual book. My graduation book, the yearbook.
Yeah.
I was in theater when I was in college. I was in 4 major productions that were up for awards. I presented musically. I was a lyricist and a pianist and a guitarist. I enjoy writing a great deal. And I decided to become a painter because then I could be married and have children and stay at home. Being an artist sometimes can be a little too public. Sometimes, especially performers. It's a little too public. You end up you lose yourself in the performance self.
Yeah.
And women in the performance world have it really hard. I mean, women in the painter's world have it hard enough.
Sure.
But in the performing world, it's really difficult. So I got to make a choice here. And besides that, you can't, I couldn't. What I say is I couldn't be a painter and a lyricist and an actress and a performer. And this just, no. It was just way too much.
Yeah, I did not know that about you.
Yeah.
I did not ever run across any performative.
Yeah.
With you. That's great.
There's a video I'll be letting out
this
is
what I love about these conversations, too, is I get to learn things that you can't find out.
You're so sweet to want to know.
It's easy. No, your work's super interesting, and you're about to explode all over this entire town because of... not only the huge body of work that you have, but also you can support it with Pacific Standard Time. I don't know how to pronounce it. Is it LALA or are we saying La LA or what do we say? It is LA.
LALA.
I like to say La La.
La La. PST La La.
Yeah, right. I feel like
by
that's
the time
what it's
we're finished, that's what we're all going to
right? I know.
How are we going to keep up with it is really the question.
Yeah. So let me just rattle off for the audience here this impressive list of shows that's about to happen. Okay. Keepin It Brown is a solo exhibition.
Right.
And that's going to be September 9th. Mm-hmm. Is that opening for that?
Right. BG Gallery in Bergamot.
Yeah, and then that's going to go through September 9th through October 10th.
Right.
This is going to be a busy fall.
Yeah.
Here we go. Dia de los Muertos. It's a cultural legacy, past, present, and future at Self-Help Graphics. And we're going to talk a little bit more about with your association with Self-Help Graphics over the years.
Okay.
And that's September 17th. And that's going to go Is that January 20th?
They've actually extended it to February.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's going to a long haul.
Yeah.
It'll be great.
So the opening reception for that is September 17th, noon to 5.
Right.
Descendants and Dissonance, Culture Iconography in Contemporary LA at Salt Fine Art, September 18th. LA Landscapes, Real and Imagined, Studio Channel Islands, September 16th through November 18th. This goes on and on, people, so, buckle in. We'll put it in the show notes. A Universal History of Infamy at LACMA.
Actually, I'm not in that show. I'm in another show that's affiliated with it called. Actually, they haven't given it a title yet. It's at the Charles White Gallery, at the LACMA UCLA. I'm sorry, the LACMA Charles White Gallery. Yeah, an affiliation with it.
Anything that has LACMA in front of it is hot.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. Deconstructing Liberty, A Destiny Manifested. That is Museum and Cultural Center
in Anaheim,
August 5th.
That just had its opening
through October 15th.
It's up through October 15th. That's right.
Yeah,
there's a couple more coming too. I just got a couple more invitations.
You're a busy kid.
I think that Make 'Em All Mexican and the Brown Dot Project are really hitting a nice chord. I think that people find them, conceptual and interesting, and I'm grateful. And also, I have a lot of it. This is one of the keys that I keep telling my friends. They go, how do you do this? I go, well, you have to have 200 pieces. They go, what? I go, you got to have 200 pieces.
Yeah, well, that's important, too, because when you're having this kind of moment like you are right now, this having the tidal wave of work to support it, that all of these museums and galleries and everything can have some of your work in it that want to talk about these issues through the work. Then,
a new take on the Brown, a new take on the Brown talk.
Yeah,
a new take on the Brown talk.
Well, we apparently need it really bad, and we just need it all the time and constantly until,
especially in California,
until we start to wake up a little bit.
Well, yeah, I'm really grateful that the Getty's putting in so much of their resources to be able to make this happen, and I'm really grateful to meet a lot of Latinos who are traveling in and out of Los Angeles for all different kinds of performances and exhibitions and all poetry readings, all kinds of good things, film work, everything. It's really wonderful to see, and it's really wonderful to remember that we are really at one of the major Latino hubs in the nation, and it's between us, Florida and Texas. A little bit Denver, a little bit Chicago, but we've got 48.3% of the county is Latino.
Yeah,
I mean, Miami's 66%. I mean, it's pretty massive, and it's not just that we're big in numbers, but we actually have something to say to each other and to the world at large. And I think this is really a wonderful time to be able to draw attention to it because it's really quite wonderful. The work is going to be really fabulous. I've seen some of it around town, read some of the proposals and stuff, and the work is just going to be incredible.
Yeah,
it's really really interesting.
Too. Yeah, it's going to be very good.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Some of the, what's interesting about the Pacific Standard Time and actually the Getty's website that explains what Pacific Standard Time really is, and I encourage everybody go check that out, read the statements, check out just how many institutions are going to be involved in this giant cross-informational, cross-cultural experiment of just all of these institutions that are normally operating independently really kind of coming together on this one theme. But the first thing that they point out on the website, which is really great, is they just are reminding everybody that Los Angeles started out as a Spanish colony and that, we're going to talk about the entire history from the time that this was Spain,
the historical aspects of it,
and then how the United States, depending on how you look at the history, captured it or bought it or whoever you talk to might be.
I think it's really important. Like I ask people, I'm a native Californian. And a lot of people go, really? I don't meet anybody. I'm going, I know. Walk up to anybody who's brown and ask them, 5 out of 10 times they're going to be born here.
Yeah.
And I said, what do you like about California? They say, oh, the weather's great. And it always turns me off. Because they should say, wow, Latinismo is really wonderful. Where the place is just beaming with Latinismo, really kind people, really, real lot of talent in town. Everything's really great. But that doesn't come out, oh, the weather's good. Oh, and they like what Hollywood and Vine and Universal Studios and stuff like this.
Well, I mean, I don't know how many white people you know, but being a white person, I'm gonna help you with understanding whiteness. Okay.
Well, that's been part of it for me too.
Yeah. So white people don't like to talk about race because they always come out bad. Like white people have to have like. This is something that I talk about. Like you have to have a personal reckoning. Like you really do. Like you have to kind of try to figure out. What is my culpability in this? Because you're going to have some culpability as a white person. Either if you don't talk about it at least, then I feel like you're part of the problem. If you don't at least, I do.
I'm more like, I can't, I'm part Spanish. All Latinos are somehow or another. And the Spaniards really created a lot of mess around the continent.
Sure, yeah.
And so, you could say that I'm culpable for that. But I can't go back 500 years and say I'm sorry. It's just
no. And also, I mean, I think for a big part of being like a white person is looking back into your family history and going like, what was done there and what is my feeling about that at least. And when I say culpable, I don't mean like we have to go out and we have to like,
mea culpa,
we have to like get out the hair shirt and put that on for a while. No, you don't.
No, I think it's really about relationships with other people.
I do too.
I think it's one-on-one. I think that's how you prove who you really are. Isn't the rhetoric that you use or whatever it is, the T-shirt that you wear or something like this.
No.
It's really about how you treat the people around you. I mean, I'm married to a white guy. We just celebrated our 40th wedding anniversary. So neither one of us is really into that kind of culpability. We gave that up ages ago, before anybody else did, actually. We got married when, we couldn't when people wouldn't rent to us. It was intense.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, I think it's more like, like people of all races, all creeds, all colors in Los Angeles just saying, wow, look at this art piece. 48% of LA County's Latin. How the hell that happened? I actually said that to somebody over lunch yesterday. They go, so where are they? I go, they're in the kitchen. they're out back. They be out back. They be out back always, right? So it's just about being aware and being polite and kind to people regardless. I mean, no matter who you meet, whether you meet an African American person or whether you meet a Muslim American person, right? Whoever you meet, right?
To you have to do the hard work of judging people one at a time. Like people, you have to judge people. And that's just part of human survival. We have a survival mechanism that we have to make judgments and we have to make them quickly. But hopefully you can suspend it enough to where you can judge them one at a time. Well, that's my goal.
And that your judgment isn't based on what they look like.
Right, yeah.
But your judgment is
judging
based
on the person. If you're going one at a time, you're going by the person.
The character.
Hopefully,
the character of the person, the integrity of the individual, their capacity for compassion and kindness and generosity and courage, their abilities, right? This is what this is how we should be judging each other. But you see, we started talking about Make 'Em All Mexican and laughing around, and look at what we ended up talking about. This is exactly how it goes in all the shows.
Oh my gosh.
This is exactly how it goes. One time.
So when are you going to start making the fluff work? That's like not controversial. Has nothing to do with anything political at all. When's that going to happen? Are you going to give yourself a break and just like?
I doubt it.
Make some clown paintings.
I'm really not the fluff type. I don't know whether you could tell that or not.
No.
I'm pretty much a worker bee. I'm very much a worker bee, and art is very important to me. The fact that I'm an artist is a very important part of my character, and I have to honor it so that I can really feel that I've spent my life wisely doing something that means something.
Substantial.
It has to be. If it's not, I'm not going to, I won't be happy. I won't be contented. I won't be satisfied. I've got to be satisfied by this. And the only way I'm going to be satisfied is by racking my brain to find something that really means something. And the conversation we just had right now to me is very, very meaningful. And if the work can instigate that kind of interaction and those kinds of questions, and how do we relate to people generally? How do we feel about ourselves? Right? How do people look at us? Right?
Yeah.
Then I'm pretty happy about it because it's really about the brown issue, And I didn't really choose this. It kind of chose me. But after 40 years of being involved in Chicanismo and Indigenismo and all this stuff, I thought, what is it? I said it the other day. Actually, I said, when 9/11 came out, everybody started doing flags. Right? There was this plethora of flags.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm not going to do flags. I'm not going to do flags. I know that they're selling right now. Yeah, I know there's a big market for flags. I'm not going to do it. I'm still waiting for my 9/11 image to come out. It hasn't come yet. It will come. It's on the burner. I've been wondering about it, right?
Yeah.
So I was in Chicanismo and Latinismo for 40 years, and it took all that time for the Make 'Em All Mexican Brown Dot project to come out. And so it takes time to make something that's really indicative of who you are as a person, indicative of who you are as an intellectual, as an intellect, as a spiritual being, as a poetic being. It takes time. And so I'm willing to sit and wait. And unfortunately, because life doesn't go on forever, you only have so many years to be able to create so many portfolios.
Yeah.
You really don't have that many years to create portfolios. So you're lucky if you have, 5 decades?
Yeah. So are you in a hurry?
Oh, I can't be in a hurry anymore. If I'm in a hurry, it's going to end even faster.
But do you feel that sense of urgency?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I'm more than willing to sit on a product and wait till it actually comes through true, rather than just rushing image. Let's do some fluff.
How difficult is that to have that the urgency and at the same time have to hold it back?
That's what I'm made of. It's not difficult. It's just who I am.
You can do that.
That's who I am. And then when I find it, then I just sit with it until I'm done with it, and then I move on to the next thing. We'll see how long this one lasts. I've had 2 pretty good brown ideas, I think, and I don't know if there's another brown idea coming. I think there might be. I think there's one in my head that's coming, and we'll see. We'll see if I can pull it off.
So, can you walk the audience through a little bit more about, we talked about the Brown Dot project a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
But can you just kind of walk us through the nuts and bolts of it, how it functions, how do you make decisions about materials, how do you make these how do the nuts and bolts decisions of art making affect theory, and how does theory affect the
product.
And for that particular piece?
Yeah. Well, let me share this one idea with you first, and then I'll go into the process of it all. I had a solo show at Texas A&M last year in October.
Oh, you obviously did not hear our interview with Christine Schumacher. We did it at my house, and my house is in the flight pattern of, and so it's just planes overhead all the time, and it's just I don't even hear it anymore.
I know, it's really different than out here. No wonder.
But poor Jonathan is trying to edit this thing.
Yeah, so I'll wait. So I had a solo show at Texas A&M last year, and I was really fortunate to the show was curated by a group of student artists in a really beautiful gallery in the student hall, the large student union, right? And I had a group of students come in to have a talk with them one day. I said, I want to talk to the students. I'll talk to them as much as you want me to. I'll be there to talk to them. Let's have a chat about this.
Yeah.
And up was Make 'Em All Mexican, and up was the Brown Dot Project. And they were talking about working with computers to create art. They were using a new, not so new, but a software called Maya that allows you to manipulate things.
Yeah, 3D
animation, turning things out. Yeah. So they were talking about. I said, so what are you guys working on lately? What's going on in your studios right now? And they were talking about this process that they were using called dimensions, where you stack ideas or concepts on top of each other to create what I'm calling a sandwich, because it's easy to imagine it, right? And then pressing that together into image. So in this particular case of the Brown Dot Project, you got paper, you got the media, you got paper and archival markers, you've got data and statistics, right? You've got all different kinds of data, health data, workforce data, population data, all Latino based. And you've got then you've got the Latino brown issue sandwiched on top of that, right? And then you've got all kinds of imagery that correlates to it. And Charles Gaines, you've got all the dot matrix people, all the contemporary people that use dot matrix to create Chuck Close, to create imagery. Mm-hmm. And then you've got even people come in and look at them and they see schematics for computers. They go, that looks like a motherboard. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then you've got, right? And someone else will come and say, gee, that looks like a Navajo blanket. Mm-hmm. So you've got, indigenous antique imagery sandwiched in this. Here's a sandwich. It's getting pretty fat. Yeah. And when you compress it together, when you think about it, when you take it, it's easier to get an image, an object, and take it apart like I just have. Mm-hmm. But when you're in the creative mode, you're creating this sandwich of dimensions. Gee, I wonder what an object would look like if I sandwiched this and that and this and this and this together, and then incorporated this into it. What would come out? It's like putting it into a blender and saying, "Wow, that's what it looks like." And that particular conversation really changed my life and changed the way that I think about my work. And I was told after the fact that 3 of the students that talked that day that our talk about dimensions, because they were stacking technology and cartoon imagery mostly. I said, well, what happens if you put a political image inside there, or a social image inside there, or a cultural aspect into it? Then what happens when you sandwich that together? And suddenly eyes were exploding, heads were exploding. My head was exploding with them. Mm-hmm. And 3 of the students in the room actually wrote their final paper on the conversation that we had that day. And I love sharing that story because I think it's really important to think about idea. I think this is a really beautiful formula in terms of thinking about compacting ideas so that it really has multiple aspects of meaning. Mm-hmm. So it's not just a flag for 9/11. To me, that's very one-dimensional. Mm-hmm. And it might be a very beautiful flag, but it's still just very one-dimensional. Mm-hmm. And I really like stuff that has interior meanings. I love double entendre. Mm-hmm. I like things that make your mind really bend. Yeah. Make your emotions bend even better. Make your psychology bend even better than that. Yeah. Let's talk about the politics of color for a minute and watch everybody fall off the roof, including brown people. Including brown people. Some brown people have really fallen off the roof about this. I'm like, wow, get down. This really upset you, huh? Okay, let's talk about it. Yeah. Or let's not talk about it and say we did. So when I was making Make Them All Mexican stuff, I told you I made the joke that I ran out of space. It ain't no joke. I ran out of space. Yeah. And one of my dear friends said, gee, Linda, you're going to end up with a lot of little figurines. Yeah. I said, you're right. I should quit now. You're right. I should quit. But I couldn't help it. It became an addiction. I'd be driving by a store. Oh, God, I got to go in there. I'd buy some and make it brown. Oh, God, it was just terrifying. My mother was buying stuff for me.
But now that I've met you and I've heard you talk about it, there's a part of you that's just like, you like to function a little bit as this mischievous. Oh, yeah. This like get in there and like just mess with the system a little bit, turn the keys or
mess with the expectation. Yeah. And this is I've always wanted to do something with a sense of humor, because the stuff that I was doing before was basically fantastic realism landscapes that were very they were like psychedelic landscapes that were very sort of spiritually based, and they didn't have much of a sense of humor. Like the conversation that I had with people about the work really didn't go in this direction. I don't have a sense of humor, because I do have a sense of humor, and I wanted to show up in the work. And I was really glad that Make 'Em All Mexican had this funny sort of edge to it that allowed you to laugh. Yeah. Like one of my shows has Fred Flintstone and Barney Rubble. And Barney is like, he's shorter and he's a lot darker. He kind of looks like a guatemalteco. Right? And the fact that he's Fred's best buddy really makes me laugh. I go, so some short little brown guy could be your best friend. Get a grip. It's real. It could happen. Yeah. Right? So I was looking at all this stuff, and I said to myself, I actually had a show with a gallery, George Lawson, here in Los Angeles. I really like George. He's capable of deep conversations about process. You can really get into it. And he showed the Make 'Em All Mexican, and we had a good showing. But he basically showed what emotional abstract painters, abstract painters that come from emotional centers. Mm-hmm. And so George said, well, we did it. I think it was pretty good. I'm moving off to San Francisco, but, your work doesn't really fit with my new program. And I said, oh, gee, George. And I said to myself, I wonder what my art would be like if I was an abstract minimalist. Yeah. And that's how the question started.
Okay.
And it was a joke.
Yeah.
I knew that I couldn't make sculpture anymore. I knew I had to go onto paper so I could put it into drawers or tubes or something.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to run out of room in my storage unit. And I said, I wonder what would happen. I wonder what the work would look like. And for some reason in my head, I saw a brown circle. I have no idea why. That's what I saw. I went to a show. Who's the artist's name? Unfortunately, I don't remember just right now. People will probably be angry with me. I think it's...
No, it's okay. It happens to me all the time.
I'm
trying to run this show.
But yeah. It was a Latin American, I believe Mexican artist, abstractionist, who was using a square, a black square, like a black frame, and I saw it in Miami. I saw it in Miami Museum. And so abstractions were kind of coming up into my head, and I was seeing the brown dot. And to get back to that whole bit about the electrics with the little itty-bitty squares,
yeah, I
was still sort of seeing the square. The square was still coming up in my head, and I was seeing like the little brown dots. And I was in a conversation with someone one day that said they were talking about how the Latino numbers were growing and how great that was. And I'm like, well, not if we're the service class, it's not that great if we just end up in the kitchen all the time. I'm not really that happy about it. If we were coming up as doctors and lawyers and, engineers and, architects, I'd be a lot happier about this. And so the data was in there, and, the sandwich is being built, right? The dimensional things being built. And it was just floating around and just floating around and just floating around, and I was trying to figure out how to make these squares from the electrics and the brown. I didn't know what was happening. It was like a soup.
Yeah, so you almost just challenged yourself almost accidentally.
In a strange kind of way, it just sort of happened up. And I could have challenged myself in that direction, and nothing would have happened, and I never would have made this series. And then one day I was in Dick Blick shopping, because that's one of my favorite stores to just, artists like art stores.
Yeah.
And I saw the architectural grid paper, and I said...
Yeah.
I could put the brown dots in the grids. And I bought some paper, and I came home, and I did some studies that were 9 by 9 inches. And I just took out a calculator, went to do the research on the first ones were LA 48.3%. Mm-hmm. And because it's all numerical, you have to you have to count the number of squares. You got to count the number. You have to multiply that by the percentages, and you've got to count the number of dots, and then you have to. I actually count to 50 and make a hash mark on a piece of paper and continue doing that. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I did a series of, I don't know what, it happened like in 2 days. I just went crazy. Made 10 of these little guys, just little itty bitty ones. And then I said, oh, my God. I went back to the store and I started buying paper like this, 24 by 24 inch. And then all of a sudden I'm buying 40-inch squares. And now I'm going to do a 5 by 7 feet, I think. That's my next hope. I have some studies already for the next. And I started doing all this research in terms of data that kind of expanded. Yeah. There's not a lot of data about Latinos out there. Yeah, it's really brown is not the big issue. They do some of it, but it's just not. There's not that much out there. I mean, there's more about what the United States Latinos than there is in terms of worldwide Latinismo. Even the Latino population of the world is difficult to find.
It's difficult to describe too because you have many components that go into it. As far as you can describe it through language, you can describe it through nationality. You can, but really try to pinpoint it in any one location, and all those factors make it difficult because I mean, what are we really talking about?
Yeah,
are we talking about Brazilians? Are they? But they speak Portuguese. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
Or what are we?
Yeah.
Are we talking about when we get into the Caribbean type area?
In the United States, what you're talking about really is Puerto Ricanos, Cubanos, Mexicanos, Central Americanos. Yeah. Right? This is basically what you're talking about here.
South Americans,
and there's some South Americans, but 60% of all Latinos in the United States are Mexican.
Sure.
boom, everybody, get ready. We've been here. We're going to be here a long time.
Yeah, well, that's the truth of the history, though, is that the border crossed so many, what were Mexicans that became Americans overnight.
Yeah, and the border was put up in
so many families.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
So
the data gets very interesting.
Yeah.
And it gets very scary, too. There's a lot of data that's not very good, health data especially, that's not very good. That's very shocking and not very good. And I think it's important for people to not only think about the numbers growing, but to also think about educational opportunities for Latinos, work ability opportunities for Latinos, health for Latino children, right? What is it? I think what is it? Oh golly, I don't want to mistake the data, but a very high percentage of third generation. I think it's 60% of all Latinos in the United States are 33% of all Latinos in the United States are third generation, like me. That's a very big number. And I can't remember, it's a very high number, we're legal. We're actually authorized Latinos. The number of authorized Latinos versus unauthorized Latinos is much greater than people would expect. And part of the brown issue and part of the brown problem is that if you're brown, people look at you like you're an illegal immigrant. That's what their first thought is. Oh, my God. Right? Because they don't know. And so sometimes the data, it helps everybody. What was it? I was in San Jose, and I happened to say to one woman that I was talking to, a Latina, Chicana, I said, well, we're only 17% of the military, we're the armed forces. She goes, that can't be true. I said, well, pull out your phone. That's what you got it for. And so actually inviting people, like when I'm in these conversations with people, I said, let's look it up. Let's just look it up.
Yeah.
So we look it up, and she goes, wow, you're right. I go, well, you got to do the homework here. So a lot of urban myths cover how brown people feel about themselves, cover how people of other cultural backgrounds think about us, which is all, and a lot of it's just dubious misinformation, urban myth. And so a lot of the fact-finding is really helpful in terms of dispelling concepts, ideas about ourselves.
And that's what great art does, is sandwich.
It stacks it. It stacks it so that it's not just about the image. It's about the idea behind the image. It's about the conversation that is brought forth by the image itself. It's about changing lives through image. And it says
things that language is not that good at saying.
Sometimes, yeah. And then I watch people look at the brown dot because, just to give you an idea, the 24 by 24 inch LA, 48.3% Latino, the number of squares in a 24 by 24 inch piece of paper is 48,400 squares. 48.3% of 48,400 is 23,377. So I make 23,377 dots on a field of 48,400.
It seems like a very daunting task.
It's not. It's pretty easy.
You got out there and it was.
It's not hard.
Does the making of them feel? I don't know if you've ever done any of this kind of work, but does it feel like? What is, I don't know, maybe somebody like, I guess Carol Carumpus might call it women's work, like quilting. She does work about quilting.
It has that aspect to it. It has beadwork in it. It has quilting into it, but it also has motherboards into it. Some of them look like the bottom of the starship, Enterprise, with all the lights that go on. So somebody said, wow, this looks like Braille. Have you ever thought about having them translated into Braille? I mean, people see what comes out of it from their own experiences into it.
Yeah.
Some of them are completely abstract. They don't look like much of anything.
Have you ever worked with that laser technology that they make the
I'm on my way.
Oh, God, I'm so glad.
I'm on my way.
Because if we can make this a nice tactile experience too, let's do it. It'll be fun, right?
And then, then you're stacking it. You see, you're stacking it because then that's another form of media that could, where you're talking about it. I mean, it's very methodical, like beadwork, like tapestry work, like putting together a mother. I mean, it's very detailed in terms. It's very minute. It's very minute, and I can only count to 50 at a time. Like I said, I count to 50 because that's as long as I can. Trust my mouth. After I get into 60s and 70s, I get confused. And then I make a little hash mark and I do all the math before. And people say, well, is it perfect? I go, I'm not a machine. I'm a human being, so I don't know if it's perfect. I'll tell you that I did everything I could to make it perfect, and I counted all the way, and that's what it is. But you can count all the dots if you want to. A lot of people say, was this made by a computer? A lot of people ask me that. So these are computer generated, right? I go, no, they're done by hand. Come close to it.
Well, kind of the human computer, maybe.
Yeah. Well, I'm not a machine. I won't become a machine, but I like the dots. I'm happy with the dots. But I'm getting back to painting too. I've actually, for one of the shows, the one at SALT, I created a new series of data pieces called Datos Sagrados, Sacred Data, that is circular, based on the golden mean. Mm-hmm. And so the images are more like mandalic forms.
Yeah.
And I had to hand divide the paper. It's Asian. It's a Japanese handmade paper.
Oh, okay.
I had to hand divide the paper myself to create the geometric forms. And so those are painted with gouache, and so I had to paint a straight line for all day, every day for several, and those are like 12-inch in diameter circles, 22-inch circles, and 44-inch circles. Mm-hmm. Like one of them's like about this big. Wow, mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so I'm going back. I miss the brush. I do miss the brush quite a lot, and I love the brush. I have a million brushes. I love them. And I think that's the only thing that, that drives you when you're working in a particular media, is that there's other medias that you really miss and wish that you could be about. I miss singing. I miss acting. I miss everything. I wish I had 4 lives. I would do it all.
And then you build new skills as you go along too, because for you and your work, the form has to follow the idea,
right?
Because that's just how your work goes.
That's the hard part.
So now you're into like paper making skills. Yeah. You're into like this, all the,
Well, I made paper before. I've made sculpture. I mean, if you look way back into my stuff, I did
printmaking,
earth-based sculpture. I did that for 10 years. I painted for almost 20 years. Printmaking to begin with. I mean, the media is really important. I love discovering, I like to get all the way back to the first part of our conversation. I like new frontiers, and in the art world, new frontiers is new media, new ideas.
So it's not intimidating for you to go all of a sudden, we have to get back into singing. I got to tune my voice now, and then just jump into it and go for it. And that's not intimidating for you. It's more, that's the joy.
Yeah. That's the fun part. Yeah. That's actually the fun part.
Well, for a lot of people, they wouldn't feel that way. A lot of people would be very intimidated to change their entire process after being successful at painting.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's intimidating. It's scary.
To me, it's much more scary to continue painting something where my heart wasn't in it. That is frightening. That's very frightening to me. To produce the same image for 30 years, for 40 years.
So you got to keep on moving. The military brat.
Yeah, that's right.
Has got to keep on moving.
As long as the idea matches it. If I don't have a new idea, then I can't move on. I just have to keep trying to manipulate what I've got. But trust me, I have several ideas. I'm really interested in this whole DNA stuff that's going on right now. Because, there is no such thing as a full-blood Native American left. And I don't think there's no such thing as a full-blood black person. They have a lot of Native American blood in them, too. Latinos are the original raza cósmica. We've got everything in us. I'm sure I've got black. I'm sure I've got Jewish in me. I'm sure I've got indígena all over the place. Yeah. Some Spanish, a little bit of Spanish there and there, some European. Mm-hmm. And so, I'm really interested in this whole topic of let's all get our DNA done.
Yeah, I'm finding out that, lots of people are not what they thought they were.
That's right. Nobody is. That's my point.
My sister has been doing her DNA, which, obviously reflects onto everyone in our family. Mm-hmm. And we can take some of it, not all.
So what are you?
So I don't know. I don't want to know. I'm that guy. I'm like...
What if your sister knows and you know? I mean, you basically...
That's okay.
Yeah.
I'm like, if she wants to know, that's okay. I'm like,
I think everybody should know.
For me, I'm like, I don't need to know. I'm like, it doesn't matter to me.
Well, you're the exception.
I'm like...
I think all the really dedicated skinheads You know, the dedicated
Which kind?
skin. You know, the ones that are dedicated to their cause.
You're going back to our Juan Capistran
yeah.
again, because
yes.
Juan's a skinhead, but not that kind.
Oh, what kind of skinhead is he?
He's the Manchester, England music type.
Punk skinhead.
No, kind of. We learned a lot about it the other day. Really? I'll have to say I love that music. I love everything about it, and he still taught me things. And I'm getting the most out of all these interviews because I learned so much. I'm learning from you. I learned from him.
You know, it takes someone who is willing to talk about a lot of different things and who is inquisitive and who enjoys people to do the work
that's for me.
You're doing.
That's the easy part for me.
Yeah,
because I'm just getting in here and learning so much about artists and their processes, and that's all I care. That's what I love.
That's what you love to do. That's what you love to do.
Yeah.
Well, thank God there's people like you, because who would we have to talk to if there were people like you?
Are you kidding me? The huge, giant audience that you have.
I don't find that most people really want to talk about things that we've talked about today. I mean, they want to talk about how'd you get that idea. A lot of people ask me that.
Yeah.
But this bit about stacking concept, I don't think I could have that conversation with your average gallery going person.
Yeah, and I mean, hopefully that's what. I mean, I've never found work that I enjoy, and actually, I feel like work doesn't become iconic. It doesn't get to the next level without having deeper meaning. Even if the average person doesn't understand it, they can maybe see there's more to this than I'm understanding. There has to be layers so that aficionado person that maybe does want
the
that
connoisseur.
It's there for them.
Yeah.
It's there for the person who's what I would call the fanboy, you know, the person who wants to really get deep into the work. It's there for them. Yeah. And they are sort of the people that pass it on and say, you have to look at this work. This is amazing,
This is important stuff.
The next level of people might not get into the 4th, 5th, 6th read on the work.
Right.
But they go to 3.
Yeah.
And the next group, maybe they go to 2 or 1. But that's okay. You know, they're bringing what they're capable of bringing to the work. But I feel like the 3rd, 4th, 5th read has to be there still.
I agree with you totally. And I think it's really back to that one-on-one. I mean, so you meet someone who's only capable of maybe talking about the work on level 1, and there's 10 level possibilities. And you still show them respect, and you still answer their questions, and you still enjoy the fact that they're interested in the work. And this is part of the work of being an artist, because your audience really does need to be varied, but you need to be ready, and the work needs to be on that kind of level where it's at a 10.
Yes.
Where, you know, the aficionado, as you say, I call the connoisseur, really has the tough question, and you're kind of like, wow, I never thought of that before. Wow, that's a really great question. I'm going to have to think about that one and get back to you. And those are the questions I look forward to. That's the stuff right there. What does it mean to be a creative person? Why do you want to be a creative person? What is at the basis of all this? I mean, you already asked me that question. Why do you go there? And not, you know, it's something that you think about. I think about, well, you have to think about it a lot. It's a dedication. It's a sacrifice. I mean, you do a lot of things to be able to have an artistic career. You have to do a lot of stuff. You have to really cobble a life together. You got to constantly just work, constant work.
This brings us to such an amazing topic that we love on this show. We call it side hustles, but everybody calls it something else. But more or less, it's what it is. Like, how does an artist piece their life together in order to make it work? Because there's no playbook for this. You can't go to a corporation, say, can I have a job as an artist? And then they go, oh, yeah, here it is.
Here's a job description.
It's $45,000 a year. It comes with medical and dental and vision. And these are your duties. And then if you perform these duties, you will get these raises over time. You know, like, that doesn't exist.
No.
So I found that, like, people, and this is for me what my show is about. My show is for the people who are not necessarily artists, at the same time as being for exactly the artists. So this is the portion of the show for the people who aren't artists and are like, they're like, how do you do it? Because that's the question I get the most when I go to the bank and someone says, like, what do you do for a living? And they're trying to fill out that form because you want a loan. And they're like, artist. And they're all like,
What does that
They
mean?
only get AR out before they're all like, how do I with the money part and and so, I mean, side hustles is kind of about the funny things. Maybe you had a job when you were young. Maybe you have a job today. Maybe you Juan told us all about how he doesn't want the gallery sales to dictate to him.
Absolutely.
So he also makes stretcher bars and canvases for artists. Yeah. And because part of his process too is he needs to wake up in the morning, he needs to go to work, and he needs to have something there to build and do. And he's thinking while he's doing it, and then he's building this thing, and he's paying the bills, and then at the same time, the work is fermenting, and then he's making the work, and then he also owns a gallery, and you know what I mean? So you know how it is. This is the artist life, right?
Yeah,
okay. So, any and all you want to share with us about that? Did you have a job way back when? What do you do now? How does this all work?
Okay. Art hustles. There's some things.
How'd you do when you were starting out, when you were young?
Man. I waited tables.
Yeah.
I waited a lot of tables. I waited tables in a place that I had to wear red hot pants and go-go boots.
Yeah.
And serve T-bone steaks and stuff. And listen, and with a dance floor that looked like the one out of Saturday Night Live.
Hot.
It was a nightmare and a half where you had guys hitting on you all the time, really hardcore.
And so was that when you were going to school down in Long Beach, or?
No, that was before. I mean, this was just after undergraduate school.
Okay.
I mean, I did some stuff that I wouldn't even say live. I mean, it's kind of like, wow. To anything to get in and out of town.
Yeah.
I waited a lot of tables.
Yeah.
I modeled for art classes. I did that for several years. Even when I was in grad school, I did that. But I didn't ever model in the school where I was going.
Yeah.
Because I knew that was just trouble.
Yeah.
I had a gig where I would just drive out of town and go model at this college, go model at that college. I made my living that way, but I never modeled at home because it just, guys are just, they're relentless.
Yeah.
They're just relentless. And you don't want to concentrate on your work. And I was already engaged and married at one point, and, I'm just interested in the art and having a nice home life and the art. My family, this is it. This is it.
You're
right?
just trying to make it as an artist out here.
Yeah, I don't need to juggle dudes. I just really do not need to juggle dudes. Never was interested enough. Let's see. I got into. So I basically waited. I did factory work and I modeled and I waited tables. And when I was in graduate school, I got a job at Self Help Graphics. I was looking for work because, me, I'm always looking for something. I'm always looking for the image. I'm always looking for the work. I'm always looking for the money. I'm always looking for the opportunity. I'm always looking. This is what I do. This is how I work. And I mentioned it to somebody. I said, I'm trying to find a gig. I got to get a gig here. I need to make some money.
Yeah.
In graduate school. And he said, well, they're looking for artist teachers up at Self Help Graphics. I never really fit into Mexica or Mexicano or the whole Mexica group thing. I was a little too weird. And I was just a little too different to fit in. I just couldn't get it all. I just didn't understand it. I was a hippie in college, I was like this outrageous hippie type vocalist. I just never fit into that. So I go to Self Help Graphics and it's all Chicano, and I just need a job. I show them my portfolio and they hire me, and I become a teacher in the Vadio Mobile Art Studio. And I find out that, I'm basically a Latina. I'm a Chicana. I actually am a Chicana. I'm a Mexican born in the Southwest in Nazlan.
Yeah.
And I thought, this is really interesting. Maybe, this is kind of cool. This is interesting. Let's get into this. And so I taught on the Vadio Mobile Art Studio and got grants with them for 3 years from the California Arts Council when they were giving monies for artists in residence. And I started writing grants for Self Help Graphics because nobody wanted to do this. Nobody wanted to write. And nobody wanted to put the writing in the boxes.
Yeah, it's boring.
Oh, I like it. I made a whole lot. You see this? That's what I got out of that.
Oh.
I'm telling you. And, because, artists either they marry money, They're given money.
Sometimes, yeah, sometimes.
Or they teach, right?
Yep.
Or they just, juggle dudes or juggle women.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah. And some of them...
I've found that they do it in all different ways.
All different kinds of ways, right? Or they figure these hustles, these different kind of hustles, like they start a little business. So I started writing grants, and I started working for other organizations to write grants, and I started teaching in 1985. I now teach grant writing online. I now do workshops for artists, and I do consultations with individual artists to help them write statements and bios and put their CV together and put together tools to be able to reach out to galleries and stuff. And I'm really successful with that and helping people come up. I've been doing the same kind of thing with Otis College of Art and Design for 9 years. I teach their MFA program in public practice, how to write grants, how to write statements, how to, do all that kind of writing. How do you write about your work? I work for nonprofit organizations. I'm consulting with a few right now, putting together full packages. I've worked for I don't know how many nonprofits over the year. I've helped establish nonprofit organizations. So I've been involved in the nonprofit world for as long as I've been involved in Chicanismo.
Wow.
And I built a whole career around it. And it's a whole other life. I let the people in the nonprofit world know that I'm an artist. I work for a lot of arts organizations. I worked for a couple years for 18th Street Cultural Center, Art Center, and wrote grants with them. I'm working with Self Help Graphics right now to help them with one of their proposals.
So that was an association that just lasted.
They like me, and I like them. I like them, and they know I respect them a great deal. Yeah. And what is a Chicanismo been pretty good to me. Very, very good to me. It's so that's been basically my big side hustle. Has been brokering these skills that I have as a writer.
Yeah, so you built this stuff for yourself, and then you're like, I can teach people.
I can teach people. I teach a lot of people. In my online class, I teach somewhere around 4,000 people a year. So it's a pretty big community. I've been teaching online for 20 years. I taught nationally when I said I was teaching nationally when I was looking for the repurposed objects. I was teaching grant writing nationally on a national basis. I call it karmic retribution. I'm helping a lot of nonprofits work with a lot of people. I call it one way to give. Really, I give a lot. I provide a lot of access to a lot of skills to a lot of people. I had a gallery for 8 years. Because I found that the gallery world...
I did not know that.
Yeah, a lot of people don't. A lot of people do not know that. I had a gallery for 8 years in Los Angeles. It was the worst time of my life. I was never more depressed. I was never more broke.
Oh.
I was lucky if I ended up with enough money to buy a bag of groceries.
I thought the gallerists were the people that get rich in this game.
This is what people think, and it's a lie.
It's not true.
It's a lie. It's like the interviewers, right? It's like the people who are the interviewers, right? The people with the radio shows. Oh, they must be making it big. Nobody makes it big in this. If you do this for money, you're out of your mind.
Yeah.
You'd be a lot easier off, raising dogs.
Yeah.
Raising cats.
That sounds... I don't know. Maybe that's a side hustle.
It is.
We're going to find the artist out there who's probably doing it, right?
I think this is what the reality is. I think that
I know one that trains horses.
Yeah, well, there you have it. Whatever works. But I mean, when I'm teaching my classes with artists, I'm like, I'm going to tell you the truth about this. I'm not going to tell you the way it should be. I'm going to tell you how it really is. If you want to make this happen, you're going to have to be willing to do a lot of stuff, and you got to be really creative. And I suggest you get a day job. I suggest you get a hustle. I call it a straight job. Then I get them to laugh. They go, straight job, right? So, because, it's something else.
Well, none of us when we were in art school thought that was going to be us. I was told that. And I was just like, oh yeah, but not me. I'm not going to have to get a real job.
Really?
I was going to be a superstar.
And look what happened.
And then I totally have a side business.
Yeah, I was, June Wayne told me, you don't have, there's no chance for you, Linda. You're a Mexican. What the hell do you expect?
Whoa.
I mean, literally. And I knew she was telling me the truth.
And do you feel like she meant that in a nice way?
Yes, she did.
It was like trying to protect you, maybe?
Yes,
or
absolutely.
Something?
She was a very good friend of mine. We worked together on many different projects over the years. And I think she said it to me because it's really the truth. I mean, look at Betty Czar. Betty Czar is, I wish Betty Czar was farther ahead than she is. Betty Czar should have a major publication out there. She and her daughters are some of the most talented artists I know. They deserve more than they've gotten. Just women of color are really at the bottom of the wheel. And so you can't do it because you expect fame. You can't do it because you expect, riches. Fame and fortune. I used to say this to people when I was younger. I said, I don't really believe in fame and fortune as an artist. And they go, yeah, right, Linda. And I mean, look, I'm going like, really, I don't believe in it. I don't believe it's possible. Yeah. So I have to work twice as hard. And so I've had a side hustle forever.
Yeah.
Forever. Absolutely forever.
Yeah.
Because art doesn't make money. It spends money. Anybody who knows anything about art knows that.
Yeah.
Art supplies are very expensive.
Yes.
Storing art, shipping art, catalogs. It's a very expensive habit.
Yeah.
Hobby.
Yeah.
Hobby. The taxes are always like, did you sell? I think that,
and you're all like, are you judging me? The work's very good, okay?
I don't care. I mean, if I sell, it's great. I'm happy for the money. It's fine. If I sell, I'm happy for the money. That's great. But that's not my modicum of success, really. I think my modicum of success really is a level of exhibition and level of catalog and publications, because shows come and go. Yeah. You end up with a postcard.
Yes.
And some okay memories, possibly, if you're lucky.
Yeah.
Right? But really, how, if you're in history books, if you're in some kind of catalogs before it's over, then you kind of have a chance.
Then the idea can survive.
Possibly. I mean, I'm slashing work right now. I'm just going to the storage unit and it feels really good.
Yeah, I've done it before too, and friends of mine who are not artists don't understand it, and all of the artists that I know go, yeah, you got to get that weight off your back.
You just really got to.
Yeah.
And they go, and I go, well, I'll see work. I'm just going through and just going, that's a C piece, boom, boom.
Yes.
That's a C piece, boom, boom. And people are like, wow, how do you do that? I go, there's a lot more where that came from.
I made it. I can
make more.
That's right.
Yeah. So how'd you like that answer?
Great.
Yeah. Some giant side hustle, right?
Yeah. No, that's like, I think it's important for everyone to understand this. This is why we do this part of it, because really I when I was in college, I thought I was going to be an art star.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you just get your head snapped around super fast, after that. And then I got out of school, I immediately started fabricating other people's work, fine art fabrication. Mm-hmm. And then I was working on the first two balloon dogs for Jeff Koons, and the heart clasp, and
I love all those,
and the tulips, right?
I love the balloons.
And then, well, thanks, my name's written inside of them.
I love the balloons. People go like, ugh, and I'm going, get over it, man. The cat's really getting it done. I mean, no matter how you get it done.
Here's the moral of the story is that when I never really formally met Jeff, but I did see him in the studio. They were built in a giant warehouse space, and the two times I did see him, his hands were in his head. His head was in his hands like this, just. No, it was just just punishing. The financial end of it is punishing
everything
at that level. It's like he had so many other people's money running on whether or not those would succeed. Luckily, they have, and luckily, the Broads bought it and all that kind of stuff.
Well, somebody sells something for $100,000 and they're basically getting a quarter of it. I mean, that's how you have to look at it.
Yeah.
Somebody's selling something for $250,000 and they're basically getting a quarter of it because we have to give it to part to this person, part to that person, part to this person.
And at that level, you have the partnerships.
The splits are, they're just mind-bending splits.
Yeah.
Just mind-bending splits. And the whole idea of being an art star, I mean, what was it? The data that I read on that is somewhere between 200 and 500 artists worldwide make $1 million a year. $1 million isn't that much money.
No, worldwide too.
Yeah, that's not that much money. Yeah. I mean, if you said $1 billion.
And there's very few economies in the world when you really start breaking it down. It's really that can support artists, really support them, actually financially support them. There's most of the artists are just doing the work for the love of it.
Yeah, they're like us. They're artists because they must be.
Yeah.
I'm an artist because I must be. There's no way out for me. There's no way out. So I have to live it to the hilt. Mm-hmm. I have to just do it down and dirty, or else I'm not going to be satisfied. And if it doesn't bring any money, well, then I never expected any anyway. Yeah. And the whole bit about, artists, gallerists, I don't want to give my image up for the gallery. I don't really go for that either, because I kind of say the odds of you making $100,000 off of any gallery in any year are so slim that that's not even a question for me. I'm going to make the image I want to make anyhow.
Yeah.
I'm going to make the image anyhow.
Yeah.
Because even if I made the fluff stuff, I probably would come out the same.
Yeah. Oh, on the financial end,
Yeah,
for
on the
sure.
financial end, I'd come out the same.
Yeah, so do you.
Yeah, I just do a whole bunch of Frida Kahlo heads.
Oh,
did I say that?
Oh, yeah. I'm so glad that you did, too, because this is something that I'm on these guys about all the time, the young guys coming up. I'm like,
let's do some more Vita-ness, man. Come on. I want a tattoo, don't you?
It's like, you just can't, you can't do done stuff already. Whatever it is, you just can't do done stuff.
Well, how many images do you actually need? I mean, how many more images of Frida Kahlo do we actually need?
Yeah,
Does anybody actually need?
Yeah, we don't.
I mean, the market is so saturated with her image at this point. It's just kind of like out the window.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends on what you want to do. I mean, you want to be Thomas Kincaid?
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah. No, I mean, Weiland, whatever.
Yeah, you want to be Weiland or, what are you producing here?
Yeah. Okay, again, you can see Linda's work at Keepin It Brown, which is a solo show at BG Gallery, and that opens September 9th, goes till October 10th. Dia de los Muertos, a cultural legacy, past, present, and future at Self-Help Graphics, that starts September 17th. Descendants and Dissonance, cultural iconography in contemporary LA, that's at Salt Fine Art, starts September 18th. LA Landscapes, Real and Imagined, at Studio Channel Islands. That starts September 16th. A Universal History of Infamy. That's at LACMA's Charles White Gallery. That's the satellite, and that was actually curated by a friend of the show, Vincent Ramos. His interview is going to be coming up in a week as well. Deconstructing Liberty, a Destiny Manifestation. That's at Museum and Cultural Center and starts August 5th. It's already begun and goes till October 15th, 2017. Next week on the podcast, we are going to have Vincent Ramos, who curated that Charles White show and is also at the Broad building at LACMA. So really good stuff coming up and lots of Pacific Standard Time shows coming up. And I hope everybody gets a chance to at least go out to one. If you can't hit them all, hit as many as you can. They're going to be great. Thanks for listening.